The Ghana Police Service has announced a 20,000 reward for anyone who will offer information leading to the arrest of the killers of the Member of Parliament for Mfantseman, Ekow Quansah Hayford. The IGP has also sent a specialized investigators team from CID headquarters to support the Central Region's crime scene team to solve the alleged robbery incident and murder of the Member of Parliament. The MP was shot on the Abeazi Dominase Mankesim Road on his return from a campaign trip. Now, President Ekow has, in a letter to Parliament, assured the police will do everything possible to bring to book those who killed Member of Parliament Ekow Hayford. Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, read the letter of condolence to MPs. Now, the leadership of Parliament has, however, directed MPs to restrict their movement at night following the killing of their colleague MP. The NPP MP for Ayensuano and Chairman of Parliament's Roads and Transport Committee, Samuel Ayepe, who disclosed this to JoyNews, says the killing has, quote, put fear in MPs. He says the decision of the shooter to kill Mr. Hayford after he identified himself as an MP shows they are all at risk as members of Parliament. Some of Ekow Hayford's colleague MPs have been speaking to JoyNews.
This is something that has actually hit all of us right in the face, and it's very sad. It actually put fear in all of us because we all campaign at night. We move in and out of our house at night. Listening to the eyewitness report, he was shot when he identified himself as a member of Parliament.
But one of the accounts say that after he made the point that he's an MP, there was a claim that they are the people who are making the country a difficult place. And subsequently,
what I heard is not about making the country difficult. He said, you are the people who are making things difficult for us. So the understanding I am getting is that, the current government has been critical on armed robbers, and not even current governments normally are critical on armed robbers. So when an armed robber see a government official or a member of Parliament, definitely the armed robber would be very strong on him. So he got shot when he identified himself. But the point is that we as members of Parliament also need security. It is important. We pass the laws that are putting restrictions on movement and the work of criminals. So we are always the target of the criminals. So why are you giving the judge this because he passed the judgment? Why are you giving the minister, the deputy minister, the security to protect themselves? But those of us who sit and pass the laws before the laws are sent to the judicial service for implementation, I'd rather not being protected.
Many thanks. The Honorable Samuel Ayepe there. The Honorable Bernard Ahiafo is the MP for Akachi South, the NDC MP for that area. You think this is a reflection of a general deterioration of security in the country that we're seeing unfold?
Well, let me use the opportunity to express my deepest condolences to the family of Ekow Hayford. The last time we did one-on-one was on GTV, when he was on the MPP side and NDC side. It's a sad news for Parliament of Ghana. It's a sad news for the whole country. Today is a black day. In fact, the level of insecurity in Ghana now cannot be again said. We live in a country where people can have the courage to walk into a court and attack a sitting judge and yet go scot-free. We live in a country where a sitting MP, J.B. Dankwaidu, was murdered in a cold blood. We live in a country where a professor was killed. We live in a country where MP was announced to have been killed in a very tragic circumstances. Is it because he announced himself, I'm the MP for the area? In fact, danger begets man, and it is a cry of distress that will have to summon for relief. If we look at the Article 71 office holders, apart from the MPs, all Article 71 office holders, they have security. So what is it that a security cannot be provided for just 275 members of Parliament?
So that's the Honorable Bernard Ahiafo there. Let me speak to the Honorable Kwame Agboja. He's had an experience of his vehicle being shot at on the road, even as he headed out of his constituency. At least by the grace of God, as some would say, you survived that experience. But how is this development about the Honorable Ekow Hayford coming to you? And for you, What does that say about the need for protection for MPs as your colleagues are advocating?
Well, my brother, thank you very much. We also use the opportunity to express my condolences to Ekow and the family, the Parliament, the MPP, and the country as a whole. It's a very fine gentleman who we lost this morning. You are right. Maybe I shouldn't be here, actually, if I wasn't that lucky. While I was returning from my constituency somewhere in 2017 at dawn, after Sikuma, I just heard a loud noise in the car. When I turned around, I saw a hole in the glass. Out of the panic, I rather didn't stop. I kept driving until I got to Tema. When I stopped, the police said, "What happened?" When I narrated it, they said, "You were lucky. You would have had a terrible situation if you stopped to check what it was." And I've gone through a series of briefings and how to protect myself since then. So some people say that
should attention be paid to that in terms of security education for members of parliament so you know how to react in some of these situations?
I think so. People close to me always say that I look paranoid when it comes to things like that. I wouldn't use the same route to my house. I don't like to see the same vehicle following me for a certain period of time and all those things. And I think this is a common thing that we should all do. But you see, I am not sure whether this is an armed robbery thing or not, whether it's contract killing, whether it's premeditated or something, because if you stop a vehicle and one of the passengers said, "We said, who are you?" and he identifies himself as who he is, I think he's being honest. What if he said he's a classroom teacher? They say, "Well, which school?" And he begins to lie rather, and he's shot. Wouldn't the public be saying that he should have said he's an MP?
Let me round up with the Honorable Ras Mubarak, the NDC MP for Kumbungu. You have always been against the idea of security, protection, and policemen for members of parliament specifically. Hearing the news about the death of Ekow Hayford this morning, does that change the position that you hold?
Let me echo the sentiments of my colleagues and express my profound condolences to the family of our colleague and the MPP family and Parliament as a whole. It's a Black Friday for Ghana's Parliament and the nation. What that means also is that we are beginning to see a growing sense of insecurity in the country. Recently, you saw the convoy of Alex Mould and some NDC officials that was attacked in the Ashanti region. You know, we have seen again the tragic murder, needless murder of our colleague, you know, who was going about his job. I have always held a view against, you know, having 275 police officers, taking police officers off the streets and having them protect members of parliament. But what has happened has given me a change of mind, you know, to the extent that this is not only a loss to his immediate family, it is not only a loss to the MPP family, it is a loss to the nation. And what that does is that it exposes the weaknesses in our security system as a country. So somebody watching from the sub-region could say, if members of parliament can be taken out this easily, you know, they might as well come and attempt to kidnap MPs or ministers and the rest of it. So it's a wake-up call on all of us.
So those are some members of parliament speaking to our parliamentary affairs correspondent, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Growing sense of insecurity, they call it. Let's bring in a security analyst, Adib Sani, who is joining me right now on this. Hello, Adib. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Gifty.
Right. Adib, what do you make of the calls by the members of parliament for tighter security and restriction of movement for some of the members? So they're actually calling for tighter security for themselves, you know, by the police, to be provided by the police. And there's also a part of the leadership of parliament that's warning them to restrict their movement.
Well, first of all, let me correct an impression. The growing sense of insecurity is not starting with the murder of the Mfantseman MP. Indeed, it is something we have been grappling with for some time now. According to police statistics, according to statistics from the Bureau of Public Safety, and even the U.S. Department of State, since 2017, there's growing insecurity in the country. Crime is on the increase. There are well over 1.2 million illegal guns in the system. On an annual basis, over 500 Ghanaians are murdered. And local authorities, as has been captured in the travel advisory published by the U.S. Department of State for its citizens coming to Ghana, they say lack the capacity to counter the threats. Okay, so this is no news. And for some of us, it is not coming as a surprise because for years on end, and it cuts across the political divide, we have failed to deal with the fundamental issues of security in the country. And for us to now simplistically say that the solution to all that is happening is for MPs to be given armed guards, I think it will be tantamount to dealing with the issue unscientifically, unsustainably, and localizing it rather than looking at it from the broader picture. Now, how about the average Joe persons like you and I?
That's an argument that has been made. But if you get to the parliamentarians and the other people who are calling for extra security for themselves, that's those who in parliament, the argument they make is that it's looking more as if people do not have fear. People do not have regard for persons, and they're putting themselves in the Article 71, category, and saying that there are other people who are within this category who enjoy that security. Why can't you give us as MPs the same?
Well, the thing is, Gifty, because of the nature of every job, I mean, just as MPs, you are a reporter, I mean, you are a journalist, and there are sometimes you engage in investigative reportage, which would not go down well with some people, so that could make you a potential target. I'm a security analyst. I talk about security every day. I make the work of the criminals very difficult, so I'm a potential target. Whether you are an investment banker with someone investing something with you and not going the way he expected, you could also be a potential target. So almost everybody is a potential target. MPs are potential targets, but I've always maintained that dealing with it at the localized level, giving MPs security, despite the fact that yes, they claim those within that article have security, is not going to help the situation. We have a major issue considering it from the wider context. How do we manage the security of the state in a much more effective and efficient manner? How do we go beyond just thinking that the solution to the myriad of security challenges we're facing in the country all boils down to donation of pickups and other vehicles to the police, when we have consistently failed to invest in situational crime prevention, when we have consistently failed in training our law enforcement officers in line with best international practices to counter these threats, because it is quite common, it is common knowledge that a lot of these criminals are always a step ahead of law enforcement. How do we capacitate them? How do we give them the equipment? How do we create an environment where it will not be profitable to commit crime rather than just giving them security? I do understand, I mean, the awkward situation they have gotten themselves to, but every single Ghanaian has a security concern. So I think this is a wake-up call for us. This is the golden opportunity for us to explore the myriad of ways, of strategies, the multi-dimensional strategy we can adopt in dealing with the state of insecurity in the country, rather than simplistically providing security to MPs. Because trust me, these guys have become more audacious. They are able to go after police personnel in broad daylight, in the streets. You understand? So if they want to come after you, they come after you whether you have a police escort or not. Recently, remember, they attacked a bullion van. The bullion van is fortified, yet they were able to attack it. So this is a wider issue that we need to approach from a wider scientific perspective, rather than just thinking that providing police officers to MPs will solve the issue.
So as far as you're concerned, providing escort or police escort to any parliamentarian will not solve the problem. Just yesterday, we reported news of an NDC campaign team that was attacked by gunmen. We know there are checkpoints on our roads, and these checkpoints are essentially supposed to make sure that some of these people don't get through. What are we doing wrong, and how, from your perspective, do we deal with a situation like this?
Well, first of all, Gifty, in criminology, we have something called situational crime prevention. It's based on a theory called rational choice theory, which is quite straightforward. Criminals are humans. They think. Before they perpetrate a crime, they are able to juxtapose the reward factors against the risk factors. When they realize that the risk factors far outweighs the reward factors, they are disincentivized from even committing the crime in the first place. The risk factors could include the response rates, the crime and investigation efficiency. But when they realize that the reward factors outweigh the risk factors, that is, currently there's a 90% likelihood that if you commit a crime, you will not be caught. Okay, it makes them, it encourages them, it motivates them to commit the crime. So how do we deal with this situation? By modernizing crime fighting techniques. This is no rocket science. This is straightforward. This is logical. We have a number of biometric databases: passport office, national health insurance, national identification, SNIT. Why don't we integrate these systems, make it accessible to law enforcement, so at least every first respondent police officer is trained on how to protect the integrity of crime scene, collect fingerprints, run it against the system, and it can help to a very large extent in uncovering many of the murder mysteries we are bedeviled with. When you go to other jurisdictions, they use DNA technology to solve crimes that were perpetrated in the 1970s, in the 1980s, when DNA didn't exist. One classical case is the Golden State Killer, who raped and killed a lot of women between 1970 and 1985. He was recently caught using what we call in DNA technology genealogy. His grandson was caught, his DNA taken, and they were able to make a follow-up to his grandfather, who is apparently the Golden State Killer, and he's called Michael D'Angelo, a former cop who is now in his 90s. So we need to set our priorities right. We need to go beyond the provision of helicopters and vehicles. There are fundamental issues.
And one of the arguments that I've personally made is for us to invest more in surveillance system, which is in line with the point that you make, which will then require that we go back to our parliamentarians, because they will have to approve. If we have to invest in these systems, they will have to approve these monies anyway.
Yes, a lot of work has been done. I don't know if you've taken notes. Everywhere you go in Accra, there are surveillance systems. Unfortunately, we have an incompetent national security minister who doesn't know that the way forward is to engage various stakeholders, so we educate the public on the importance, so they protect it as national assets. But there's a lot more work we can do. But Gifted, this raises the issue of personal security. You see, we cannot have police officers everywhere all the time. At the very personal level, we need to exercise some level of discretion so far as our security is concerned. I provide security systems, and I'm friends to many of these MPs I've given security systems to in their homes. I've provided them with CCTV, tracking devices, etc. But a whole lot of them think there's no need because they are so remote, they are so detached. There's no way anyone would cause them harm because they are good. But it can come to anyone. So it is important going forward. We need to collaborate with law enforcement. Go out there, and this is a unique opportunity for me to appeal to the multimedia group. Let us collaborate. Let us go out there, reach out to the people, create awareness for them to know that it is a risk. Leaving the house and leaving your key under the doormat or in the flower pot or under the flower pot. It is risky to give out very private information on social media, because what these criminals do is they are able to use it to carve or to create what we call a profile of you, which makes you a potential target, because they know at 2 p.m. this is where you would be. At 3 p.m. this is where you would be. They know your children, their names, the schools they attend, what time you pick them, you drop them at school, what time you pick them up from school. We need to educate the people. When you close home, when you close from work very late, when you're going home, especially for journalists, because you would have to wait for the late news to go before you go home. Do you use the same routes, Gifty? You have to vary your routes. When you drive, be conscious of your security environment. When you get home, make sure the doors are locked. If you wake up at 2 a.m. to pee, ensure, double check that the doors are locked. And invest in security is extremely key.
It is indeed. Adib, thank you so much for your time, and we'll certainly be collaborating more on educating people on security and how to be more security conscious, especially as we also go into an election year. Adib Sani is with the Jati K hub there. As you can see in his background, he joined us. He's a security analyst, helping us understand the situation, the issues that have been raised as well.